Hello, this is Christy. Today I'm going to show you how I create a simple ConvertKit email template from scratch. I know that ConvertKit is not a very friendly system in terms of designing very attractive templates, and that's something we've come to accept, I guess. Nathan, the founder, explains this on a blog post on his website as to why he doesn't really enjoy or support fancy templates and fancy email designs. But anyway, if we want to still send something other than just a little bit of text in an email, we can build some fancy layouts with HTML and all of that stuff without drag and drop. But even if you want to keep your emails simple, it is a very nice idea to also have a bit of personalization in your emails, such as your logo, maybe your picture, maybe a few links, and some branding, that even if your emails are very simple text, like story, personal kind of looking emails, you still want to have a little bit of branding, a little bit of visual stuff added to them, maybe changing the colors of the links or adding a little bit of a header or footer. So in this video I want to build an email template somewhat from scratch. The idea is that we will take an existing template that comes with ConvertKit and personalize that and then add our own layout elements. So let's start now. I'm going to design a very simple template with a picture and a title and some links, and we will change the styles. And it's always a good idea to start small, start simple, don't overcomplicate yourself, and build from there. If you want to add complexity to your layouts later, you can do that. But it's always easy to start simple and then see what you're doing and understand what you're doing. So because for the lack of a visual builder in ConvertKit, we will have to use a little bit of HTML and CSS. So we will have to kind of get familiar with that. If you're not familiar with HTML and CSS, there's plenty of tutorials online. But of course, because HTML is quite a large thing to learn from scratch, I usually like the approach of learning what I need, enough light for the step I'm on. That's all I think about in this situation where you need to choose something huge, you need to learn something huge, and that might be scary. So I'm just going to start with this approach for these ConvertKit templates. Let's log into ConvertKit. Okay, so today I'm going to design a template for my friend Chris Menard. He has a website, chrismenardtraining.com, and also he wants to start a newsletter. So all over the videos that he's done, he's doing YouTube videos and tutorials on his blog. He tends to include his picture in those videos on the thumbnails, and that's become a bit of a recognizable thing. So this is his picture right here, and I'm going to use this as a branding element. Although he does have a logo, the picture is more recognizable, so I'm going to incorporate this into the layout. So in ConvertKit, this is the main dashboard if you want. And if you want to start developing or creating a template, you need to go to the top right menu, click on the name, and then you will have a bunch of links here, among which there is one called email templates. And you just click on that, and ConvertKit will show you the templates you already have. These are the ones that come with ConvertKit. They have been in this account, and when you start your account, they're not untouched, but they are very simple. So you have a text only template, you have a classic one, and then you have a modern one. And the one that has the green check mark is the default template. So this one is used in all of the emails or broadcasts, as they are called, when you send it. So like I said, we will start simple by actually copying the content of one of these templates and customize it to fit our purposes. Of course, you can start from scratch with a blank template. There are some elements there that you need to have. So I'm just going to click on this modern one, and we will look a little bit at the code. And of course, we will look at these variables. What you see here on the right side, these things with curly braces, they are variables that you can insert into your template, and they are replaced automatically with the content. So for example, this is a required template to include a template field or placeholder text variable, if you want. That's what they call them here. Message content, of course you have to include these braces because this is where the message content of your email comes in. So your template is just some styles. As you can see here, they start with some styles like the message content and the width and the margins and the font, and you know, all these things, alignment, heading, colors, all of these things. So these are the styles we will be tweaking, and I know they look like there's a lot of them, but you know, don't be scared, we won't be changing all of them at once. And then down at the bottom of this HTML content, we have the you know, of course the CSS is finishing here, and then we have this part, which is the HTML part of the email newsletter. And as you can see here, they have a center which makes everything centered, and then they've got a table with a width of 580 pixels. And then they've got this div which has a message content style to it, and there it is, the message content variable. So that means that here is where our messages come in. So you're creating a template, and then you save this in your account, and then every time you send a, let's call it a weekly email, for example, you write your text for that week's content, and that text comes in here. So it gets replaced in here, and everything surrounding that is part of the template. You don't have to worry about it every week. That's why you create a template. You create it, you set it and leave it, and then you use it for all of your emails going forward. So this is the variable for the message content. So no matter how long your content is, it will be slotted in here, and everything else will be left alone. Now there's a footer here with a class footer, which is a CSS class, and then this footer, if you look above here, it is styled as in this definition here. And then there's a lot of other variables like unsubscribe URL, subscriber preferences URL, and so on. So these two are required. You have to have these in your email, or you have to have the unsubscribe link or the unsubscribe URL, in which case you can actually customize the text to unsubscribe. So these are the required fields. Now you can also have subscriber.firstname, subscriber.email address if you want to include a personal you know, salutation or something in your template by default. So like you can say hello John, and then John would be the first name or whatever the name of the person is. So you don't have to include that every time, but I tend to leave those for the emails themselves because you may not always want to start with the name of the person included somewhere. So okay, so these are the variables. This is the code, CSS and HTML down here, and you have a preview layout button. If you press this, it will show you what the template looks like. Right, so you've got your this is a bit of a filler text. This is not actually part of the template. They put this placeholder text in here just to show what your template looks like when you put your real text in here. So, and then at the bottom here, you've got a, you know, your address and your unsubscribe link and the profile, which is these two here, these two things. And then of course the address appears because of the address included in the template. Okay, so that being said, we will close this, and I will copy the content of this template and use it for a new template we will design from scratch. And I will try and explain what everything means. So first of all, I'm going to Control A, click in here in this field. Control A will select everything. So you have to click in here at the very top and just scroll down to the end and select everything and copy this. Then we will leave this alone. We will not save this modern template, and we will go back to all templates, and now we will create a new template. So we're going to see this red button here, new email template. Okay, and they ConvertKit is suggesting that I choose a starting point, which means, you know, if I choose one of these templates, it's gonna actually create a template with this content and let me customize that. Or I can say use HTML to go completely custom with your email template. So I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna use the HTML editor, and now you know, I get a blank field here. I'm seeing these variables I can use, and I'm gonna just give this one a name. I'm gonna call it Chris Menard 1. Let's just call it like that, Chris Menard 1, or maybe call it default, just so that I know that this is one that I created myself. So next I'm going to edit the HTML content of my template, and I can paste the text that I brought in. But just to show you, if I try and save this, it's going to give me an error here. One error prohibited this email template from being saved, and it says HTML can be blank. So the first of all is the HTML is blank, so I have to at least put some of these variables in here. So I'm going to just put the message content like this, so double curly braces, message underscore content, close that. So let's see, if I try and save now, it's probably going to complain about the missing links for unsubscription, which are a legal requirement, and you have to have those. Okay, it didn't. Okay, so I believe it didn't do that, because if you don't include them, it's probably going to include it automatically anyway. So I'm just going to click back to go back in here. Okay, and now in this moment, this template is very simple. It doesn't do anything because it just has the message content in it, right? So we said we weren't going to do that. So I'm just going to delete this and paste in the HTML and CSS I copied from that other template. It was called modern. So I'm just going to paste here. Okay, so this is my HTML code from the other template, and I can preview the layout like this. It looks exactly like that one. I actually undo again. Let's see what happens with the preview. So as I said, I deleted that and I left the message content in here, and it says emails must implement either the unsubscribe link or the unsubscribe URL tag to be valid. So it will not actually, I don't think it'll let me use this template in any emails at the moment, because I'm missing these legally required unsubscribe link or unsubscribe URL. Because in all the emails that you send out, because they're mass mailings, you have to allow your subscribers to unsubscribe if they want to. So that's why this, you know, being a legal requirement, this template is not valid. So I'm going to replace this again with the full HTML of the message that I copied. So in this moment, I can just save this and I'm done, right? So now this default template, Chris Menard default, is the same one as the modern. So I haven't changed a thing, right? So I'm going to go back in and make some changes now. So just to show you an example, if we click preview layout, we scroll down and we see these links, they are blue. Okay, let's try and see if the styling works. So we will look at the style. So in a template, the style is at the top and then the content is at the bottom. So we will have to find the A tag. So let me just zoom in a little bit. The A tag is the anchor tag or for links, right? So this piece of CSS here is styling all of the links in our text. So if I remove if I change the color here, so we have a text decoration none, which means the links will not be underlined. Then we have a border bottom of 1 pixel dotted and this kind of bluish color. and then the color of the text again is the same one. So that's what makes these links appear blue here with a dotted. These links are blue with a dotted bottom line. So I'm going to change the color here of these links, and I'm just going to go for something really crazy like red, just so we prove our point. So I'm just going to replace these colors with red. Okay, I'm not even saving. All I do is preview layout again, and now my links are red, as you can see, right? So any styling we change here will be changed in my template before even saving. Okay, I'm going to leave these red for now. We're going to come back to them, and apparently the hover color is red, so you can't actually see when you're hovering because it's already, this other color is red. So that's probably going to have to change. Okay, so I'm going to design my template now. So the first thing to do is you look at your header. So we have, if we go back down here, we see that our template has this center tag, then it has a table. So one of these practices from many years ago is, and it's actually correct, because there are many email programs out there, and not all of them, and most of them don't really abide by all the standards. So there was this issue that emails never look the same in two different email programs. So that's why most people who design, most designers of emails or email templates, they try and go for the safe tags, the safe subset of HTML tags and CSS styles that are guaranteed to work in the great majority of email clients like Outlook and Gmail on the web and Hotmail and Yahoo and all of those email programs, and like all those ones on the phones, and there's so many platforms out there and so many email programs that creating fancy HTML with fancy codes and CSS styles and effects and all of those things is not really practical, and that's why you need to go for the safe alternative. And in this case, the safe solution is to use tables. If you remember, back in the 90s or 2000, it was even the browsers, the web browsers, could not and still cannot agree 100% on all of the tags they're going to support and how they will interpret those, which is why then people kind of go, hey, if I want to be safe and I want to make sure that my layout or my HTML code renders correctly in the, has a biggest chance of rendering correctly in as many email or browsers as possible, then I'm just gonna stay with the safe tags. So one of those tags was the table tag, because layouts in the 90s or so, they were created using tables, because tables have a way of just staying put where you put them, and you make the rows and the column, the cells, you design them, and they kind of tend to stay because they were something that the systems could agree on, and they interpreted the same way most of the times. And it was quite possible to make these very intricate layouts with tables and table cells, and if you put something in a table cell, it tends to stay there. It doesn't float, it doesn't overlap, it doesn't go haywire and just destroy your layout, because it's within that cell of the table. So that's why I believe this is one approach here, that this template by default uses a table to lay out the content. So there's a table here with a table row and a table cell that has the width of 580 pixels. Then this is a conditional tag here, and I believe this only gets included if we are using MSO, which I believe is Microsoft Outlook. So this table and the centering is included if only this email client is used. For the rest of it, we have this div with the message content class, and the message content goes in there, and then there's the footer, and then everything is closed off, and then again the closing part of the table is added for this particular email client. So even here we have a little bit of a conditional to make sure that we inject some extra HTML code in our emails because of this this email program, which might interpret a div not incorrectly, and probably make your message kind of expand for the entire width of the window. So that's why we are confining that for this particular email client. We are confining the content to a table that has a width of 580 pixels. So I'm just trying to explain what's happening in this layout here, why this code. Essentially, for our email to work, all we need is just this part, okay? Everything else is styling and elements of layout, elements of getting that message content to stay put within the box we create for it. Okay, so let's move on. So I'm going to design this template. I'm going to make it very simple, and the design I'm going to use is I'm going to leave this font as it is, and I'm going to leave the unsubscribe links at the bottom, and the address and everything else. But I'm going to add a simple header at the top with Chris's picture and a title, and probably a bunch of links. Maybe visit the website, or maybe not even that. We just put the links at the bottom here. So we want to create the template so that all of these elements are here permanently, and then my content will get replaced every time, so that Chris doesn't have to worry about including those in all of the emails that he sends out. Okay, so we will start with the top part and just add a picture of Chris. So I have a picture of Chris here, which is a rectangular, it's a square actually, I believe 600 by 600. Yes, this is a square picture of Chris, and we will include this in the email. We will make it round. We will put a link on it so that when people click on this, they go to the website, and we will then create a title and put that in there, and then at the bottom of the in the footer we will add a few links to Chris's website again, to his YouTube channel, and that's kind of it, I believe. So let's proceed. So let's close this and close this. So the first thing we want is to include Chris's picture. So we don't have a way to upload pictures in this interface, so we will have to load the picture from somewhere external. There are ways to load pictures in the content of the storage of ConvertKit, but it's kind of weird and tricky to link from there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to link to this picture from Chris's website. So here on Chris's website we have the same picture added, and if I right click and open it in a new tab, I can see this picture is a square here, because on this website it's been styled to be round. And we will do the same on the newsletter as well. So the picture is 600 by 600. That's fine. It's really not too large. And we will copy this URL. So look at this. The URL of the picture is right here at the top. I'm going to right click and copy this, and back to ConvertKit, I want to add this in the HTML. So if I look at my layout, I want it to be at the top here before the content starts. So how are we going to do this? Well, I'm going to scroll down, and this is where the message goes. This is the message content wrapper, and I'm going to add a new line here, down here, and I'm going to create a new div. Let's just close it right now. So I'm opening and closing a new div, and I'm adding an image tag. So img src, this is pasting the URL of my picture, and we will add an alt tag, Chris Menard, and close this. We won't do any styling at the moment. I'm just want to see what happens if I preview. Fine, the picture is in here. Of course it's huge, So we have to do some work on this. So the first thing to do is to obviously make it smaller now because it's quite large. So I'm going to give this picture a class of Chris. Yeah, let's call it Chris, class Chris, okay? And go up here in my styles, and I will create a new class here, Chris. Okay, and in this class, I'm going to define the way this picture needs to look. So I'm going to indent like this, and just format the text a little bit. So what I want is this picture to be, it is 600 pixels wide, but I'm not going to use it at 600. Now, obviously, I could have resized this picture and uploaded it to the site in a smaller size, because in the email I don't want to use a huge image, but it's not such a huge file size. So if people zoom in on our emails, the image will zoom in as well. But I want my picture to be no wider than 100 pixels, let's call it. So we will say width 100 pixels, and because it's square, we will also say height 100 pixels. Okay, preview. There you go. That's more like it. Now the picture is smaller. We want to make it round. So to make it round, we will modify the border radius. So we will do border dash radius, and we will use a percentage here, 50%, which means every corner of the picture will be rounded up to 50% of the border width, which means if it's all the borders, all the corners, then my picture will essentially be round. So let's click preview. There you go. The picture is round, although we did upload a square picture. And what we see here is that the picture is not aligned with the text. That's because my div does not include this class of message content. Now, message content is included in this kind of div class message content. So if we look up here in the message content, where is it? Let's find that message content. There should be a class here. Okay, so message content div and message content, and message content image, these three things refer to everything that's inside that div with the class message content. So we can see here that the maximum width of that container will be 600 pixels, and there is a margin of 30 pixels top and bottom, and it's auto aligned on left and right. So margins left and right are automatic. So what we want to do is we want to copy this, the width and the margin, and we want to copy this and paste it in my div. Now, this div doesn't have a class, so because I don't want to include inline styling, I'm going to call this div class header, right? Let's call it Chris header. So just so it's distinct. So I'm going to add a new space here and add a definition for Chris header, right? And in here we will paste those two definitions, which means my Chris header will have a maximum width of 600 pixels and a margin of 30 pixels auto. Now I don't really know if I want this margin to be 30 on both top and bottom. So let's see what it looks like, and I might make a change to it. It doesn't look too bad. So it's now aligned. It's top 30, bottom 30, and then on the left and right it's aligned with an auto, which means it's equal on the left and equal on the right. And because the container is set to 600 pixels, then it's going to constrain that and align it. So if I wanted to show what that container looks like, so let's add a background color. So I'm going to just do a background color and do a very light gray. So if I look at this, this is my container here. On the top, this is the header, and then my picture is stuck to the is attached to kind of the edges, and the line to the left. And you can see that my this width is 600 pixels, and the top is 30, bottom 30, and then there's automatic margins on left and right. If I remove this auto here and I put 0 instead, then this container should stretch for the entire width of the window. Let's see. There we go. It actually doesn't do it because the it doesn't stretch because it still says 600 pixels, but it has no margin on the left and on the right because it's not long enough. So if I remove the width as well, just to show you what happens, click preview. There you go. So now this header is stretching, this container is stretching for the entire width, and my picture is in here and there's no margins. Okay, so depends how you want to do it. If I wanted to have this header colored like that, but my picture to be aligned with the text, I could add a margin to my picture, or I could add a padding left here to maybe, I don't know, 30 pixels, let's say. So preview that will push the picture towards the right. 30 is apparently not enough. We should probably have like 60 maybe. Let's say 60. Click again. There we go. So now my picture is indented a little bit. It's still in the same container, but the container now has this margin. So whatever you want to do. Personally, I do not want to have this background. So I'm going to remove the background for the header, and I'm going to remove the padding. And also I will make the margin auto, and I will put back in the 600 pixels width. So let's see what that looks like now. Okay, so now my picture is aligned with my text. That's very nice. And I want to add some text here to give a name for this newsletter right now. So let's close this and let's just go in here in the box where the logo is. Before I finish that, actually, I want to add a link to the picture so that when the link is clicked, the visitor is taken to the website. So I'm going to copy the website address. Don't forget to include HTTP and the whole thing. So make it an absolute link. Right click and copy this. And to add a link to an element, you need to surround it with a link, with an anchor. So I'm going to leave a little bit of space before and after my image, and I want my image to be clickable. So I will put a ahref, the website address, pasted, and then after the picture, I'm going to close that anchor tag. So the picture is here, as you can see, and this is my alt tag, which is part of the picture. You see the link ahref and then closed link here. So whenever someone clicks on this picture, they should be taken to this address. Let's see if it works. Click on preview layout. Now you may see that a line has appeared. The reason for that is because if we scroll up here, we remember that the A class has a text decoration none, but it has a border bottom of 1 pixel dotted red, which means every link will have that because that's what the style says. So if we want to remove that, all we need to do is just remove this border from here. Delete that border for now and preview again. There it is. The border is gone because we have styled all the links to not have a back border on the bottom. If I scroll down here, of course, these other links also have lost their border. We can put that back in and just keep them, in an exception. But just to keep things simple, let's have the links without any borders for now. Okay, my image is now included here and it should go to the website. If I click on it, let's try it. Click. There we go. It's going to the website. So the link works. It's always a good idea to check that all of your links work before you send out a newsletter. And that's not just for the template. It's also for every email you send out. When you add some links in there, just, this is one of those amateur mistakes. where you send a newsletter to possibly hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and then one of the links doesn't work or something, and people kind of complain, or they cannot go to where you want them to go. So just make sure the links work. Okay, saving this for now, and we will go back in here, and I believe this template already works now. And if you're ready to make it, you can use this as click to use it, and that makes it your default template. So now if you go and create a new newsletter or broadcast, it will use this template. So we will demonstrate that when we get there. I'm going to click back on the template now because there's more stuff we want to edit, right? So what I want to do is I want to add the title. So the title for this new newsletter or series is going to be something like Chris Menard's Training Roundup. Okay, so this is the title. So I want to add this right here next to the picture. So I'm just gonna leave a few lines here, and I'm gonna just put Chris Menard's Training Roundup. Okay, just a simple text. Let's preview that. Okay, so we have to do a little bit of work on this because it doesn't really look nice, distinctive. So what we want to do is we want to make the name Chris Menard a bit smaller, and then the title all in capitals. Okay, so the name of the newsletter. So I'm going to put this in a div and call it newsletter title. That's the class. Okay, so the whole thing is wrapped in this div, which we then go and style in our styles. So let's just check that it works. So if I put class here in the CSS, make sure you do this change inside of the style block. Okay, so let's call it newsletter title. Okay, close and open the braces, and let's give it a funny border. Okay, border 1 pixel solid blue. Okay, just to make sure we are targeting the right thing. Now because we've put it in a div, it's pushed it all the way down below the picture. So this may be something you want to do or not. If you want it to stick next to the picture, there's a little bit of work to be done. Mainly we want to make the picture float to the left so that this text, or this box rather, could pull up next to the picture. Okay, so let's do that now. One way to achieve that is to make the picture float, as we said, and we will go to the Chris class, which is the class of the picture, and we will add here a CSS float left, which means this picture will float to the left of whatever it comes after it. Okay, float left, and let's see what that looks like. Okay, so there you go. The text of the title and the text of the email even has pulled up. We will fix that in a moment, but the text has pulled up and now is sitting next to the picture. We don't want it to be so close to the picture, so we want to add a little bit of margin here next to the picture. So what we will do is, again, on the Chris tag, we will say margin right. Let's call it 30 pixels maybe. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, it has moved on to the right a little bit, so there's a bit of spacing here. That's fine. And let's make now this text sit back down there, because we don't want it to be the content of the newsletter. We don't want it to be next to the picture. The picture needs to stay at the top with the title, and then everything else start below the picture. So let's fix that. For that, if you look down here, you will see that, if you remember, we have wrapped the picture and the link and this title in a Chris header div or container. So we want to make sure that this container is telling everything else to go away below it and leave everything alone on its own line. So the way to achieve that is to display this as a block. So this whole area needs to be a block of its own, and then push everything down. So the way to achieve that is, let's go back up to the Chris header, and we can tell it to clear both, which means clear everything that is on the left or right side of that container. Just clear it and push it down. And another one that we need to put in here is Overflow Hidden. This means that everything that goes outside of this will be hidden, or this will also force that div to contain whatever is inside of it, to self-contain it and not let it go over the line. So let's see if the trick. Preview layout. Okay, so as we can see now, the picture and the title stay together, but then the rest of the content has pushed down and is now obeying the 30 pixel margin from the bottom here, and it's starting nicely on a new line. So that's what we wanted to do so far. The next thing we want to do is to style this text to look nicer. Now it's very non-remarkable. So we want to make the name of Chris Menard a bit smaller, or maybe leave it like this, but then the training roundup, that's the title of our newsletter. So we want to make this larger, bolder, and stronger, and so on. So let's do that. So the first thing is we will need to delimit these two bits of text so that we can target them with CSS individually. So let's go in here on the newsletter title and split these two. Putting them on a different line like that's not going to do much, because this is HTML, so it's not going to do anything unless we do a line break here, like so. Yeah, there you go. So they are now on two lines. We actually want to wrap them in, each one in individual tags, so that we can target them with styles. So we will surround Chris Menard with a div again, and let's call it class Chris name. Okay, we will delete that line break for now, close that container, because we will do it with CSS. And the second one, div class, and let's call this one let's call it training roundup. Okay, so it's easy for us to understand what we are targeting. So now we have the newsletter title as a container, and inside of it we have a div with a class called Chris name, which is Chris's name, and then the class training roundup with it, which is the name training roundup, right? So we will go back to the styles and target these two things in style. So let's just make sure that we are correctly targeting now. So let's put Chris name with a dot, because that's how you do that's how you target classes, with a dot. And let's just call it color blue, right? And the other one, Chris name, the other one is called, I forgot already, training roundup. And this one's going to be color orange, something like that. Let's see if we manage to make them be colored. Right, okay, there we go. So they are now correctly targeted by these two classes. Now we want to make a little bit of styling. So the way that I do the styling is I try to use brand colors. So if we go to Chris's website, we will see that the website is predominantly sort of black, gray, blue, and red. This strong red in some labels, and a bit of an orange there. This is the orange that is from like Office 365 branding. So because Chris is doing a lot of Office 365 videos, then this is a nice color to use in our scheme. And then there's red again, and you can see that all of these thumbnails, they tend to be the color of whatever he's doing a video on. So these green ones are about Excel, for example. These blue ones are Zoom training, Microsoft Teams. So there's a variety of colors here. Now most of these colors are not part of his actual branding, but we can use some of them to help match the colors of his scheme. So one of them is, I like this kind of darkish blue, so we will grab that color from the website, and then we will use probably this red to give the title of the newsletter. So I'm going to have to pick those colors. So my favorite way of picking colors is using Zara. I design in Zara a lot, so I've opened Zara here and I created two rectangles, and let me just make Zara smaller like that. So the way that I do it in Zara is I pick the color using, so I'm selecting one of them and using the color picker here, I'm picking it up and then moving around the screen. So on top of this dark blue, I place the color here, it's showing me the color and also coloring my object with it. So that's 102844. And then the second one, I want to pick that red color, click on the picker again and go to the red color. So there you go, I've picked these two colors, and I'm going to go to the color tool here and I'm looking at the color. So the red is 999 and 4 zeros. And okay, so I'm just gonna type that here just so I remember it like that. Okay, that's the color. Okay, and the other one is that one, 102844. That's the color I want to use. Again, put it there and on top of it. So these are my colors now. So these are what I'm going to use for the ConvertKit theme. So the blue, the dark blue one's going to be the name. So I'm just going to go and double click on this, copy, go back to ConvertKit, and where I put the blue color for Chris name, I'm going to put a hash and paste that. So that's my color. And then let's make this font weight bold like that. Okay, then the training roundup is not orange, it's actually going to be this color, 99 and 4 zeros. Okay, so go back here and put a hash sign, 990000, and let's make this, let's preview. Okay, these are my colors. Now, training roundup, I want it to be much larger and I want it to be sort of all capitals. Now I could type all capitals in here, or I could make it with CSS. Now let's be fancy and go text transform uppercase, which means I want the text to be uppercase. Click preview. There we go. And now I want to change it to be larger. So I'm going to go back and font size here, possibly 30 pixels. Let's see. Preview. There we go. That's large enough. And also I want to make it bold. So font weight, bold. Right, now one note here. This text actually obeys the font that was set in the styles above. So if we go up here, we see the footer has Helvetica, Arial, Sans Serif. Now this is not the footer, this is the button. So all of the buttons, the footer and the block quotes, and then the font family of div, which is what applies to me now because it's a div, is Helvetica, Arial, and Sans Serif. Now again, a note here on the fonts, because again, all of the email programs interpret things differently and they may or may not have these fonts available. So that's why web developers or programmers, they kind of go with the safe fonts that are very likely to be on all of the people's or subscribers' computers. So it is very likely that Helvetica is a font that is installed on Mac machines. Arial is installed by default with Windows machines, and if for some reason none of these exist on the machines of the users, like, I mean, I don't know, Linux maybe, or some other devices, then they will use sans serif, which is a vague definition of a font without serifs. So in case that the Helvetica font doesn't exist, the Arial font doesn't exist, maybe you're on an Android phone, right? On an Android phone, you probably don't have these fonts. Maybe you do. So then the email, the style is saying, do you know what? If you don't have these fonts, just use whatever font you have that is default for non-serif fonts. I believe on Android there's something like Roboto or Open Sans or something like that. So whatever comes included with the device, just use this as a guideline, because we tell it we want there to be a sans serif font. So this is a bit of HTML there for you, CSS more like. And yeah, so that's why for the absence of another font definition, my email template is going to use Arial Helvetica and or sans serif. Now this is my name, this is my title. So right now what I want to do is possibly make the borders of this thing blue again, disappear, because I don't want the border to be blue there. So I'm going to go back and move it because I put it there just as a test. So border 1 pixel solid blue for the newsletter title. I'm going to take that off. Preview again. So there we have it. Now there is a bit of a thing here because my text is too high, and it could use with having a smaller sort of space here between them. So we need to change the spacing a little bit. The way to achieve that is by using the line height property on the newsletter title. Let's see if that works actually. Line height, let's call it 80%. Maybe that does the trick. It seems it doesn't. I believe we need to change the line height on the individual lines because they are now included in those divs, Chris name and training roundup. So I'm going to change it for training roundup. Let's call it line height 80%. Okay, let's see if that does the trick. Here we go. Now training roundup has moved higher next to, or right below Chris Menard's training roundup, like that. One more thing we want to do is add a bit of spacing here, because we want this text, this title, to be aligned in the sort of vertically aligned with the picture. So it needs to go lower. And to do that, we will make the newsletter title, which line height didn't work, so we need to remove that. We will add a padding of 20 pixels and 0 on the left and right. So 20 pixels means top and bottom, and then left and right is going to be 0. Or if we want to be a bit more funky, we can probably look at what the size of the picture we said it would be. So it's 100 pixels high. So 20 by 20 means we're cutting off 40 pixels, so there's 60 left to play with for the text. Let's see if that did something. Okay, there you go. So we have pushed the text down, the title down, so now it aligns with the picture. Now, of course, we want to make maybe add the website here or something. If you want to add more text here, put the website on the bottom here, just like a visible address or not. That is up to you, but I'm quite happy now with this header here. We've got a picture with a link to the website. We've got a nice title here, distinctive font and color, using the branding colors. Maybe I want to put maybe you want to do like a border around the picture or something like that. That is totally up to you. Now I want to make sure that my footer is also nicely organized. So what I like to do is just put a maybe a link to his website again, and also a link to his YouTube channel. So let's do that now. I'm just going to close this preview and go down here, and we've got the footer here. So I'm going to put these above the footer, right? So I don't want to mess around with this footer. I want to leave these links here because these are like the legal stuff and whatever. So I don't want it to be kind of overcrowded with other stuff. Plus, I want my website and stuff that I put at the bottom here to be visible first. So I'm going to put these on the top of the footer. So I'm just going to leave some space here just above footer, and I'm going to call it div class bottom links. Yeah, let's call it like that because it's very easy to figure out what that means. And inside of this div, we're going to add a maybe a list a list of items, or maybe just a list of links. So we will create what's it called, an unordered list. So we don't want to have numbers on this. Okay, so UL, and then inside of that we will add a list item and close that, and then we will add a link, ahref, and then we will put the website address and a text. So visit my website. Okay, and another list item here with the YouTube channel. I have to go and copy that. My YouTube channel, and close the list item. So I'm going to go and copy the link for the YouTube channel. Okay, so this is Chris's channel, so I'm going to copy, right click on this address, copy that, and go back to ConvertKit and paste it in here between these two quotes, like that. Now let's see what this looks like. We haven't styled anything yet, so it's probably going to be just a bunch of links thrown in there in a bullet point list. There you go. Not very friendly. So we want to style this to lose these, possibly lose these bullet points, and make them a tad smaller, and also put them in line, so that, you know, with a line between them or something like that. You know, if you don't want to mess around with this, you can probably just take the list out and just put the links one after the other like this. Let me show you. So I'm going to remove all of this LI and UL stuff like that. So they're just the two links, one after the other. If I look at this now, preview it, they are one next to each other. Now they need to have a separation here, so I'm just going to put a vertical pipe character between them like that. Some people, you may have seen it around. So there you go. And now the only thing is, you know, you just want to make them kind of smaller because they're quite huge. And to do that, you want to do bottom links, and you go style those right here. So we just say bottom links. This is the container of the links, right? So I'm going to go in here. Let's add like a background, just so we know that we are styling the wrong, the correct thing, background color, like that. Okay, let's see if that did it. Okay, yes, of course, we've added this light gray background. Now you see there's no padding here, so I'm going to add a padding 20 pixels all around. So on every side of that, padding 20 pixels. That is better. So we want to make the links bold and smaller, or maybe just smaller. We don't want them to be confused with these. Now, you may want to add like an icon here, if you want to, you know, like the YouTube icon and the web icon or something. That is up to you. Again, you can add those as little images. But, you know, I'm going to just style those links. I'm going to say bottom links A, which means any link inside of that div. So I'm going to make that a font size of 12 pixels. It's probably kind of small. Let's see. Yeah, it is quite small. Let's call it 614 maybe. Yeah, so you can just experiment with this. My website, my YouTube channel. Also, we want to make them maybe a different color. You can do that. Another thing we can do is put these on the center here, but nothing else is centered, so it won't look very nice. You know what? I think what I want to do is I want to make this whole thing reversed. So I want to use again that dark blue for the background, and I want to make the links white this time. So the dark blue color was this one. Okay, so the bottom link's background color is going to be that color, the blue, and I'm going to make the links color white. Okay, so we're making the links white. Let's see what that does. There you go. So we've added a bit of weight to the bottom of the newsletter. Now there seems to be a difference of margins here because I believe there's something to do with the line height. So what I want to do is I want to do margin 0 like that to the links. Let's make sure that they don't push my content around. And also we want to change this one because I think 20 padding all around might not be a good idea. So let's make it 10. Let's see what that does. There you go. So you've got 10 pixels. Possibly we want more on the left and right. So we'll just make it 10 top to bottom and 20 on left and right. So there you go. Now it's looking better. So, and we want that colored bar, which is not visible right now, we want that to be white. So we want to change, or light gray. So we want to change the color of the text in there to this very light gray so that my vertical bar shows up. There we have it. So here we go, 2 links there. And if you want to have like a reaction to this mouse cursor, so if you want to, when you put the mouse on top, you want these to color differently, maybe a different color, or you want a line to appear, we can do that by creating that bottom links a colon hover, which is a pseudo class that tells or applies only when the mouse is over the link. So we will actually change color to this very light yellow, FFFCC, and then we will text decoration underlined. So we want these links to become underlined and slightly yellow when the mouse is over. Let's see if that does the trick. Okay, doesn't do the trick. Because I believe the class is on the document is overriding this. So we have to do something else. So we may have to actually tell the CSS here that this is actually what we really want. So it's going to override whatever is defined at the top there with the links, because the links at the top, where was that? It was right here. It says text decoration none and color red. Now we changed the color, but the text decoration seems to stick. The hover seems to stick. So what we want to do is we want to tell the browser that actually, you know what, I really want that. So we say important with this exclamation mark before it. Important. Okay, so we tell it no, what I say here, that's going to be it. So let's click preview. Let's see what that does. There you go. So my links now turn yellow and react to my mouse with an underline. Now, of course, this might be, you know, in some email programs this might be ignored. I don't know. So that's the idea. If you want to have a simple newsletter template, it is possible that some of those programs, you know, if you use fancy tricks and CSS hacks and stuff like that, which this is not really a hack, but it's, you know, some of the email programs out there might decide to ignore you. So then you need to be kind of trying to play quite conservative with these funky little bits. But anyway, I'm quite happy with this header and the footer here, you know, and if you then, you know, I mean, I kept it simple here, but you know, I'm probably going to add some stuff here to do with who is Chris and what he does and what he offers, and maybe link to some of the main sections of his website. But you know, you don't want to kind of overwhelm with your template. You don't want to overwhelm with the stuff and the funky design work you do in your newsletter template, so that when you put a simple text in your broadcast, or maybe you don't have a lot to say some week, your template is actually going to overrun and overwhelm your actual content. And this is really the philosophy behind the decision for ConvertKit not to provide a full-blown email builder with drag and drop, like the likes of MailChimp or other platforms out there that give you drag and drop for everything. Because if you had a chance to look at those templates, They really are very hard to figure out what's going on in there, and there's so much code, so much HTML, so much CSS involved in getting that email to look, you know, like you did it when you dragged and dropped stuff onto it. Now there's a lot of HTML that needs to support that. Well, in ConvertKit, as you can see, to produce this simple layout, all it takes is I don't know, a couple 50, 100 links of lines of code, and really the actual content just starts here and it goes on for this much, right? So it's much simpler. You need to know HTML in order to be able to design this. So I'm hoping that this video gave you a little introduction on what the process is for creating an email layout template from, given a code of a template that's been built before. You can take it and customize it and add your own elements and make stuff look the way you want it, up to a point, okay? Because if you start to employ complex layout techniques and all that stuff, there's obviously much more HTML and CSS involved, and you really don't want to be doing that in this very, very simplified editor. So I promised you I would show you how this email looks in a real broadcast. So I'm going to head over to broadcasts and create a test broadcast and see what it looks like with this template. Okay, so I'm here, I'm creating a new broadcast. Let's see, new broadcast here. On the next step, there it is, my new broadcast. I can put my subject line in here, and it's saying on the right here, when you create a broadcast, on the right side here, it tells you what template you're using. Now, if you have multiple templates in your account, you by default are using the account default, which, if you remember, is the one that we added the check mark to. We made it use this, we clicked on use this template, which means this is going to be the template that's going to be used by default. Now, if you don't want that, you can of course drop down here and use any of the other templates, like modern, which is the one that the template that I created in this video was based on this. Of course, it just has the footer and stuff. But if I go back to my Chris Menard default, which is what I did, you can see now the content of my email shows my picture, the header and the footer, and it's waiting for me to write my email content. So hello, and then this is the content of my email. And of course, you can use the block builder, this new visual builder thingy that they included here. So you can use like images, files, buttons, videos, dividers, HTML blocks. So if you really want to do an HTML block, you can put that in there and add stuff. Personalization means you're using the name of the person receiving the email, or first name, last name, whatever fields you're providing, you're letting your customers provide to you. Then you can use those in here and put them inside, like hello, and then I say personalization, and I say subscriber first name. So I'm adding that here. So there you go. So now that's going to be saying hello, whatever the name is. This is the content of the email, right? So you can add an image and you can add stuff and upload it. So I'm not actually going to go into details of building emails with ConvertKit, but you can see that our template, the one we designed, looks exactly the same way we did it. And you can also preview it here, browser preview. So there you go. This is what it looks like, and it's perfectly flexible. Yeah, if you're reading this on a mobile screen, you can see that the text correctly wraps into a new line. So this is one of the reasons I didn't want to make my title an image, because you could have easily done that as an image. Chris Menard's Training Roundup. You make it as an image and you put it in there, and then you don't worry about styling. But then when you're reading this on a very narrow screen, like on a mobile phone or something, with the image, you don't have this flexibility of them kind of wrapping around like that. Okay, so this is it. I hope you've found this video useful. Thank you for watching so far. If you have watched, if you like my videos, please subscribe to my channel. And if you have any questions about ConvertKit, video marketing, video editing, graphics, all those things you find on my channel, please let me know, and I'll be very happy to do a video answering your questions or to try and help you. So thanks again for watching. See you next time.